everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Penguin Beach. My name is Byron and I'm going to be your naturalist for the day, and I'm very happy to announce that Igor is behind the lens. I've really missed Igor. He has been living the dream, quite literally, up at Djuma, and I know that he thoroughly enjoyed himself up there, but it is so good to have Igor back in his natural habitat and down here at Penguin Beach with me again today, and I'm so excited, as I am sure the viewers are as well. We have come down to the breakwater, and let's see what action we can find down here today. You can see the breakwater, or the rocks that have been piled here to break up the swell or the wave action. There was actually a slipway just to our west, and boats used to launch there quite regularly, and that's why this breakwater was actually built. And now it is a lovely habitat for a variety of cormorant species mainly. The penguins also like to hang out on the breakwater, as do the gulls. We even see dussies hanging out in that very rocky environment. You can see how nice and calm the water is just on the westward side of the breakwater. It is an absolutely stunning day today. It is so nice and warm. It's probably the best winter day you can actually have here in the Western Cape. The wind is blowing out of the northwest, so we're not experiencing the icy cold ocean breeze, and there's not really a cloud in the skies. What a pleasure it is to be down here today. Let's go over to the official weather forecast and see what we can expect down here with the penguins. The weather forecast says that it is going to be 16 degrees Celsius and partly cloudy. I must say that there are only a couple of clouds in the sky and very far in the distance as we look over towards Hermanus and the Gansbaai area. And the real feel down here, I tell you, it doesn't really feel like 16 degrees. It feels a lot warmer. I don't know if that's just because we haven't had too much sunshine lately, but it is a really comfortable temperature down here. It is just so beautiful to watch the waves roll in behind Cormorant Cove. Hello, Deborah, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much for sending your comment in. The weather is looking amazing, and I'm sure that all the Stony Point inhabitants are delighted. They don't have to hide from the wind or any of the rain today. And Igor and myself are very happy. It's actually a really good day to go down and have a swim. The ocean looks very enticing. I know Igor, as a keen diver, would be itching to go explore around the beautiful kelp beds that we are observing. You'll notice that the tide is low. You can see that the kelp beds are nice and exposed today.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose. We only have one Earth. This phrase highlights the challenges of collective action between nations. It emphasizes the great test of our time. Achieving environmental change cannot be met by countries acting alone. Head over to the WildEarth shop to buy your Only One Earth merchandise and create awareness for global change this World Environment Day.
I haven't seen African penguins look heat stressed in a while, and the one individual, the adult that just stood up from a prone position and has just gone straight back down onto its belly, was panting a little bit. So it gives us a very good idea of the temperature that we are experiencing down here today. The majority of the individuals amongst this waddle look very, very comfortable. We are coming to you live, and we would love to hear from you. You can send us your comments and questions via Twitter by using the hashtag @WildEarth. You can also head over to our website, register, and then post your comments and questions under the live feeds. And if you're under the age of 18, please send us an email to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. It is a beautiful day, so put on your swimming trunks and slap some sunscreen on and come join us down here at Penguin Beach for all the action. I was really concerned about Igor yesterday. We went for a swim, and Igor was playing around a little bit and decided to surprise my wife and I by jumping into the ice-cold water very abruptly. What Igor didn't realize is that the water was about a foot deep, and he subsequently landed in very, very shallow water and hurt himself on the rocks. Did his very, very best impression of a penguin belly flop.
It's like a deep tissue massage.
Igor saying that it was a deep tissue massage given to him by the rocks. But I'm just very, very happy that Igor didn't sustain any further injuries. I must say, you have learnt from the penguins, and after watching them bail off the rocks, you've learned to flop quite nicely. Hello, Hannah. Thank you so much for showing concern for Igor. It was extremely funny once we realized that he was all right, and even Igor himself was laughing. But it's a very good lesson, and a lesson that everyone should take into consideration when diving into any water body, be it the sea, fresh water, an estuary. Never ever dive into water that you do not know, because you might hit some shallow rocks. Igor saying you might hit rock bottom, which he did indeed yesterday. That is such a lovely shot of two adult African penguins standing on rocks that would normally be covered by water on high tide. What I noticed straight away is a very dense bed of mussels, and the wave just crashed straight over those mussels and washed that individual off the rocks. Yolanda, thank you so much for coming down to the beach with us today. Penguins definitely entertain us, I must say. They provide constant entertainment for us on a daily basis, especially when they decide to climb onto very high and tall, precarious looking rocks. They are very, very clumsy on land and provide us with a lot of laughs and giggles. If I look at the African penguin themselves, I always feel that when penguins are in the water, they are really, really having a good time. So I believe that when penguins are swimming, they are thoroughly enjoying themselves and providing themselves with entertainment. Of course, with all the swell that we experience here at Betty's Bay, African penguins are able to use the power of the wave to ride some of the waves And they also like to hang out around the rocks in the surge and get washed around by the surgy ocean. So it looks like they have fun to me.
This is amazing. And now she's headed towards the elephants. Yeah, here comes the male behind us. This is the male lion coming over here. The elephants are huddled up to protect the young ones in the middle, and he's going after that girl. And they are the buffalo going after the lion, and the lioness, they're still going after them. Look at that guy charging, hey!
It's Scottish Lauren as your underwater biologist. We have a turtle! So this is the knife symbol for turtle. So today is not any ordinary day, it is World Ocean Day.
Get washed up. Just before those two penguins got washed off the rocks, we were looking at those mussel beds, and as the wave came in, the water washed straight over those mussels, and that is the perfect habitat for mussels. They are filter feeders, and they rely on the ocean to bring them food, so they remain sessile and fixed in one spot, and they only occur in very large numbers where there is a lot of wave action. And that was a very good example of how the ocean is able to bring them various particles that they can filter from the water. You'll notice that higher up on the rocks, it is still wet there, and the rocks are shining a little bit because of the water, but you'll notice that directly above those mussels, higher up on the shoreline, there aren't really any filter feeding animals. So it's very, very interesting how the shoreline is actually zoned, and it has a lot to do with low tide and high tide and exposure to the ocean and exposure to sunlight. Hello, Kendra, and welcome to Penguin Beach. Kendra would like to know if penguins are able to, or they have a way of determining if the tide is high. So I don't believe that when they are out in the open ocean that they know too much about the tides, but when they are on land, they definitely are aware when the tides are low and high, because it determines how they orientate themselves on the shoreline, how they position and orientate themselves on the shoreline. On a low tide, penguins like to stay as close to the water as possible, and they'll go and stand on the rocks that are usually covered during a high tide. And then during the high tide, they are forced up onto the beach, closer to the terrestrial environment. So it definitely has an impact on their behavior, but it doesn't really change their behavior in terms of going out to forage and the duration that they spend out at sea foraging. It's like a washing machine in that area currently. And there are a lot of obstacles. And by obstacles, I'm referring to the floats of the sea bamboo. They are very large, powerful algae and can actually hurt you if they get pushed by large waves. Fortunately, the penguins are quite small and are able to maneuver between these extensive kelp beds. And of course, during the low tide, it is more difficult to negotiate.
Hello everyone from sunny Namibia. My name is Cameron Pierce and this year I'll be representing Ongava Game Reserve at the Safari Guide of the Year 2022 edition. You know, a lot of people have asked me what it would be like to win the competition, and it would obviously be an incredible privilege, but even just to be selected as one of the 5 finalists is an honor that I never expected, and special to be a part of it for this year.
My name's Liam Henderson. I'm a guide at the Homestead Lodge on Nambiti Private Game Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal. I think Safari Guide of the Year is a great competition to be a part of. I'm somewhat nervous for the tracking part of the competition, as being in KZN now, haven't been exposed to the low-felt animals and tracks and signs that are so apparent up there.
And it appears that where the cormorants occur in large numbers, the penguins occur in lower numbers. You'll notice that when we observe penguins, they are generally sticking together with the same species, and cormorants will pop in for a visit just to dry off. But the cormorants generally stick together, and the penguins generally stick together. We've got an individual walking down quite a steep hill directly in front of us, hugging the penguin protection fence. You can see how well the penguin protection fence works to look after the penguins. That individual was right up against it, and really shows how high the fence is. Hello, Dimple, and welcome to the show. So you would like to know if penguins go hunting during the high or the low tide. So the tide doesn't actually really matter to the penguins when they go out hunting. Of course, the low tide does expose the kelp beds and causes them to walk further over the rocks right along the seashore when the tide is out. So it's a little bit more difficult to get to the water from the land. And when they come back from hunting on a low tide, they also have to travel a little bit further from the ocean back to their nesting burrows. And the opposite would be true on the high tide, where the water is very, very high and close to the terrestrial environment. But penguins generally time their foraging excursions with early morning. So if you come down to a penguin colony like Boulders or Stony Point, you'll often see the penguins gathering in large numbers. And traditionally, or they have a little tradition, they normally bathe and preen just before they go out into the sea on their foraging expeditions. And then they will return normally a couple of days later. Some penguins, however, don't like to rush out to the feeding grounds and will prefer to head out just before dark. And penguins, relying mostly on their sight for hunting, don't hunt during the hours of darkness, and all they will do during this time is simply commute offshore. And then at first light, they will already be at the feeding grounds, and they will be able to hunt as soon as the sun is up. So it's a more leisurely approach to get to the feeding grounds. And they do have to travel quite far. Most penguins have to travel about 11 kilometers from the nearest shoreline to find sufficient food. There has also been a number of times where we've observed birds sitting, or penguins sitting with chicks, and when their partner returns, the adult that was looking after the chicks heads out straight away offshore to go and hunt, because they would have had a period of not eating really at all. So it does depend on the time of year as well. There's a beautiful little reptile that Igor has spotted, the southern rock agama.
So it just got chased by the lizard.
Oh, really? Igor's saying that he saw the southern rock agama being chased by, it looks like a Cape-girdled lizard. And of course it is really nice and hot today, especially away from the ocean, and reptiles are ectotherms, so they will really be enjoying this winter's day. During most of winter they will be inactive and won't eat too much, but on a day like today they'll be nice and warm and their metabolism will have increased, so they should be out hunting all sorts of various insects around this rocky environment.
My name is Nico Brits. I am originally from Cape Town. I worked in the Eastern Cape for about 9 years before I started working at Bushwise Field Guides in the Lowveld, close to Makalali Private Game Reserve. So I'm hoping that by doing this could inspire the younger or newer guides coming into the industry to do the same.
Hello everyone, my name is Ruan Grobler. I'm from Lion Sands Game Reserve, and being nominated for the Safari Guide of the Year came as somewhat of a surprise to me. I was very excited and quite nervous as well in the beginning to tackle this task, but it's quite a prestigious event, and it means that you are recognized, and I'm quite happy to be recognized. It means quite a lot to me.
Really nice day just to bask in the sun, and of course we are heading towards 2 o'clock Central African time, so the temperature should be peaking at the moment, and after about 2 o'clock the temperature will start to decrease. So these reptiles that we are observing, their activity period will be peaking around this time as well. Just really beautiful colorations, nice and dark on top, and then along the flanks it's got some lovely orange color to its body. A very beautiful looking lizard. Hello Ryan, and welcome to the show. So they do spend a lot of time around the shoreline, and there is a lot of kelp that accumulates in this area, which attracts a specific fly known as a kelp fly. And that kelp fly lays its eggs in the seaweed, and the larvae are dependent on the seaweed to grow and for nourishment. So because it is spending a lot of time around this area, I would definitely suggest that the kelp fly would be a hot item on its menu, because they do occur in a very large abundance around stranded kelp along the southwestern Cape coastline. And kelp flies are one of the most abundant insects along the seashore. There's a beautiful old looking Dussie there, just chilling with its back to us. There's a number of rock Hyrax hanging out at the breakwater as well, a favored spot for them. And although they are endotherms and the lizards are ectotherms, the rock Hyrax do have a lot of trouble regulating their body temperature. So they do struggle in the heat and they struggle in the cold as well. This really is the perfect day to be a Dussie. They would have been all tucked up around the rocks in the morning, and then as the day moved on and midday approached, these beautiful little mammals would have become more active, and they're actually just lying up in the sun at the moment, soaking up the rays. Hello, Lauren, and welcome to the show. That is a fantastic question. We often see male Dussies sporting a number of injuries. They often show a lot of fur loss as well, and you can see clear bite marks. So males will have harems of closely related females, normally sisters, and those males will protect their territory either with aggression towards incoming males, because males that are born within a group of Dussies do disperse, and they will come in and try to depose the alpha male that holds the harem. So aggression is definitely one technique that they use. They also mark their territories with latrines, so they do defecate in the same area, and large amounts of droppings accumulate in that area over time, which will demarcate their territory as well. It's really amazing to see these cute little rock Hyrax sporting so many injuries. It's incredible to think that they can fight so viciously.
My name is Solomon Lobu. I am working at Singita Kruger National Park. I am very excited today to be one of the guys that have been nominated or selected to participate in the Safari Guide of the Year. I'm an activator. I like studying something, motivating others to become better and positive. I like to focus on the positive sides of the situation.
And rock Hyrax, as the name suggests, they do inhabit areas with rocks. That is the only areas where you'll actually find rock Hyrax, and they spend a lot of time moving around in the dark. And those hairs that are sticking up out of the guard coat are actually sensory hairs that allow the rock Hyrax to move around in areas where it cannot see, just by feeling the area. So those are very, very important hairs for this species. I can't see that any of these Dussies are looking worried about predators whatsoever. They all look very, very chilled. You can normally see one individual. I believe it is likely to be that individual over there, Igor, just to the left of this one, currently sitting on the rocks. Igor's just lost a very important piece of equipment. So we're going to keep observing this individual, and we will look for the old female that is sitting sentinel in a short while. It's amazing how comfortable an extremely hard sandstone rock looks. I must say, if you are sitting on that rock, your bottom will get extremely sore indeed. Birds are the main predators of these animals, and it's quite surprising that they're not keeping their heads up to the sky. But if we move over to the other individual, you'll notice that there is one dussie at least keeping its head up and looking around for any danger. Must say it doesn't look extremely alert. So the one at the back is sitting on the rock with its head up while the others are relaxing nicely around it. And this individual is likely to be the oldest female within this group of dussies. And it is her job to ensure that the rest of the individuals are safe from predators. But down here at the coast, avian predators are not too much of a threat. Seabirds do not pose any threat to dussies at all. It is mainly the very large eagle, known as the Verreaux's eagle or the black eagle, that likes to attack these animals from the air, and normally with the sun directly at their backs. This individual is actually facing the opposite way of the sun, so if a predator was to come in from the air, it will be very, very difficult for it to detect. And if this old female was to pass away, the next oldest female within the group would take her place to sit sentinel and watch.
With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that? Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
Very, very nice and relaxing, just to chill with the dussies a bit and really feel their mood as well. You'll notice that the cormorants on breakwater are facing directly into the sun. That's a really nice way to warm their bellies on a winter's day, and this will help speed up digestion Also ensures that their feathers are dry and that their body warms up so that they can go out and spend more time hunting in these very, very frigid Atlantic waters. There's not too much activity from the cormorants on the breakwater. One of the white-breasted cormorants and this individual is showing that it is quite hot. It is gula fluttering at the moment, really moving its throat muscles up and down, trying to lose heat. It's just a little bit of preening taking place, but not too much activity here at all. That is a very interesting question, Tyler. That is very, very cool. What type of birds can you find by the ocean and also in the bush? That is a excellent question. I think straight away down here, and I'm gonna try and apply it to where we are here at Stony Point. We do see the Karoo Prinia down here, which is a small little LBJ, or little brown job as birders like to refer to them. We don't get the Karoo Prinia up in the Sabi Sands, but we do get another species of Prinia known as the tawny flanked Prinia, a little bit more colorful than the spotted Karoo Prinia, and also an insectivorous bird, loving to move around in the bushes, hopping from branch to branch, and gleans insects from those structures. I'm sure that the Kittlit's plover that we observe down at Cormorant Cove will also be seen at water bodies inland in a place like Djuma. And we do know that the water thickney are very common around the dams of that reserve as well. And we do see the water thickney hanging out quite motionless during the heat of the day at Cormorant Cove. And we have been very fortunate to observe them a number of times. Igor, can you think of any other birds?
If you are a WildEarth explorer, we have exciting news for you.
The winner of this month's prize giveaway will win a hamper full of Explorer merchandise.
Like this fantastic t-shirt that comes in plenty of great colors, a very useful tote bag, or even a cap.
For those in the southern hemisphere that's heading into winter, a sweatshirt to keep you warm.
Head over to the WildEarth Explorers page. Sign up to be a WildEarth Explorer and you could win all of these goodies.
WildEarth, it's in your nature.
All things bright and beautiful. All creatures great and small. All things wise and wonderful. WildEarth will see it all. Each little flower that opens. Each river that does flow. Join us to celebrate World Environment Day for a very special safari show.
So Tyler, thank you so much. That's a very interesting question. Of course, we are quite far away from the Sabi Sands, so you might get a bird in the same family or the same genus, but it might just be a different species, such as the difference in Prinia species, like the Karoo and the tawny flanked Prinia. Cormorants, you will find cormorants there. You will find white-breasted cormorants as well as reed cormorants potentially. But none of the other species, the bank cormorant, the Cape cormorant, and the crowned cormorant, are confined to the coastal regions. And their distribution mostly coincides with the Benguela upwelling system, because there's so much nutrients in the ocean here, in these very cold, nutrient-rich oceans, which results in a lot of bait fish and marine life, which makes it possible for these cormorant species to survive here. Everyone is joining in the preening. One individual is scratching its head. And because cormorants have such awkward bills, look how funny their bills are, very straight, very long. It's very difficult for this bird to preen around its neck and around its head. It's just impossible for it to reach that area. So they have developed a lovely comb-like claw, and their middle claw has nearly like a comb that they brush their feathers with to straighten them out. This is very cool to watch cormorants scratching their heads using that claw. And the cormorant that is scratching itself, or was scratching itself, is a Cape cormorant, one of the endangered species. Looks like we lost our audio there just for a little bit. Sorry about that, but we are back in action, and we are spending time with the cormorants that are scratching themselves with their well-developed claws. Look how big that white-breasted cormorant is in comparison to the Cape cormorant, the largest cormorant species in this region, and one that has a very, very wide distribution. It's not confined just to the ocean. You find it around freshwater environments, well, as long as there is an abundance of prey. You can see that these cormorants spend a lot of time on the rocks. You can see the guano that is covering the rocks, facing away from them.
We want to hear from our Wild Earth kids this World Environment Day. You are the future protectors of our planet, and we want to help you understand what needs to be preserved.
We saw a termite mound. We got to see a lot of unique animals. Some trees are male and female. That's pretty cool, right? A whole lot of different creatures.
It was amazing that we could ask questions.
Kids, send in your questions for our special World Environment Day safari on June the 5th.
It was so cool!
As our global Wild Earth family grows, we know that many of you struggle to get your questions answered during the live safari. Going forward, we will be holding AMAs for our Wild Earth explorers on a regular basis. The first is with our resident leopard whisperer, Tristan Dix.
Join me for an AMA on the 8th of June, straight after the Sunset Safari. This will be your chance to ask me anything you like. All you have to do is sign up to be an explorer, and you can meet me here on Juma with your questions ready.
This individual was just flapping its wings a little bit to make sure that the flight feathers are nice and dry. And it also used its lovely comb-like claw just to straighten out its plumage a little bit as well. I really enjoy watching them flap their wings like that, because they start flapping their wings very, very slowly, and then all of a sudden flap their wings extremely quickly to shake off any of the water. Let's have a check and see what the African penguins are getting up to. There's actually a penguin chick there, Igor, that's just come out of its burrow. Look how awesome this is. We have 2 penguin chicks standing with its parent just on the outside of the burrow. It is so cool to see. These chicks are nearing the age of about 30 days old. So nice and fluffy. You can see how beautiful the coloration on their belly and on their chest is. They are nice and white, and they've also got a lot of white under their throats. So they are quite old now. Look how fluffy they are as well. And the adult has just chased the chicks back into the safety of the burrow. And there is just some movement on the boardwalk, and it's amazing to see the parental instinct kick in there. As soon as there was any potential threat, it wasn't even really a threat, that adult pushed them into the safety of that burrow. These chicks are likely to be old enough to actually spend time by themselves. I'm sure that both adults can go offshore to hunt, but they currently have an adult in tow at the moment. Now this individual is just standing with its back to the sun. Quite a very normal pose for penguins when it is the heat of the day. Of course, that melanistic pigment in the feathers, that black pigment, acts as a sunscreen, so it makes sense for them to stand with their backs together.
To celebrate World Oceans Day and create awareness for the role that the oceans play in everyday life, WildEarth has some brand new Dive Live merchandise in our shop. T-shirts, sweatshirts, bags and even caps. So take the plunge, head over to our shop and see what you can find. WildEarth, it's in your nature. We only have one Earth. This phrase highlights the challenges of collective action between nations. It emphasizes the great test of our time. Achieving environmental change cannot be met by countries acting alone. Head over to the WildEarth shop to buy your Only One Earth merchandise and create awareness for global change this World Environment Day.
Spend a lot of time close to the rocks. The chicks have just come out the burrow again, Igor. Can we have a look and see what they are getting up to? The danger has passed and this adult has let them come out. Looks like it is begging for food just a little bit. I saw that adult move its bill up and down, which is quite typical of an adult when it has some regurgitated food in its mouth. And the other chick, you can just see its back sticking out the nest. The adult is not looking keen to do any sort of feeding. And it's just giving the chicks the cold shoulder. You can see that the chick right at the back is the oldest chick, so this chick definitely hatched first. Penguin eggs do not hatch at the same time. They hatch about 2 days apart. And the larger chick is actually starting to show some of the contour feathers. If you look very, very closely, those contour feathers have a nice blue sheen to them. And that is why they get their name, the baby blues. So, Rain, that is a fantastic question. African penguin chicks do cool down the same way as adults by panting. You will often see them panting, but they are afforded the protection of the nest. So they spend a lot of time in the nest, and one of the main requirements for an African penguin burrow is the requirement of shade, and that is so they do not overheat. You will also find, and we have observed this in the Shire with Frodo and Flippy, we have the adult that is occupying the nest, also just providing shade for the chicks and preventing them from coming out of the burrow. So they do employ different techniques, but they also have the guidance of their parents. And you can see now the oldest chick is moving closest to the burrow, and just look at those beautiful feathers. I'm sure within the next 20 to 30 days we really are going to see a lot of baby blues hanging around. So they do look completely different to the juveniles. The juveniles have a grayish brown coloration to their plumage. This is very noticeably blue.
Find a way into the kill to get their fill in there as well. But they're also going to be told off. See, lions are not great at sharing their food. Okay, guys. Let me just taking frustration out on the other lion, but you see, it was interesting.
This morning we were driving and suddenly we heard a lot of commotion. I think the wild dogs might have caught an impala then, or the leopard might have caught the impala, and as it was dragging it, the wild dog saw it, started chasing the leopard up into the tree, and then the hyenas came to steal it. But what an incredible sighting.
I have to look very closely at this individual to see if it is sardine and compare it to some of the photo records that we have. Of course, penguins can be very, very difficult to determine or distinguish from one another. You can actually see the individual on the left-hand side, the youngest chick, panting and cooling itself down, using the same technique that the adult would use. The adult is moving away and the chick is walking belly down after the adult. Looks very cute amongst the vegetation there. Don't leave me. I want some food, but there you go. Look how hot this chick is. It is panting, trying to lose heat by evaporative cooling. I think it's easier just to head out into the shade instead of sitting exposed in the sunlight like that. Look at the adult just tending to the chick. The chicks don't groom themselves too much, and you'll often see the adults tending to their feathers. I did mention earlier that the chicks spend a lot of time in the burrow, and they do defecate a lot in there, so there is a lot of guano in the burrow. It's good for the adults just to give them a one-over and just keep their feathers nice and clean. The adults we have seen come out of the burrow and actually defecate out of the burrow to reduce the amount of guano that the whole family has to sit in. It's quite nice, and now I'm sure for the adults, because the chicks are able to move around, and I'm sure that there is less guano accumulating in their burrows. I stand corrected, but I believe that this is the first time we are observing this specific family. So it would be nice to follow them. We know if we come to the breakwater that we are going to be able to observe this family. They spend their time all by the rocky crevices down here where the dussies hang out. So it is nice and easy to find them again. I really cannot wait to return to this area so we can spend some time with this cute little penguin family. It will be so nice to see them when they are baby blues. Some white-breasted cormorants just below the beach have hunted successfully, so that is really, really awesome. That is such a great way to close the show. White-breasted cormorants hunting. Fantastic sighting, Eagle. I'd just like to thank all the viewers for joining us down here today, and stay tuned for the Sunset Safari. I know that Tessa is going to be heading to the hyena den, and Cedric is going to be bumbling along, or Chris is going to be on the lookout for lions. Myself and Eagle, cheers everyone, and thank you so much for joining us.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.